Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Peter Arquette. Welcome to episode 146 of the Kiss Army Things podcast. My name is Xander, but who cares about that? Because sitting next to me is the curator, the founder of KISSmuseum.com. So, Peter, I cannot tell you how awesome it is to have you here, man. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, great to be here. Can't believe I'm actually on the set of Kiss Army Things.
I know.
After watching it for so many episodes, here I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kinda
well, thank
magical.
you.
It's like being on Letterman.
Well, okay. Well, hey, I'll take that as a compliment. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, it's great to have you here because obviously, you've done a lot for the Kiss Army over the years with Kiss Museum, and it's been a pleasure to work with you as we're getting into the relaunch. And so I want everybody out there to please stay tuned to the end of this episode because we're going to be not just telling you and announcing the relaunch date, but we're also going to be giving you a little sneak peek into what you can find on the website when it goes up. So we're going to be showing you some of the items that you can expect. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you guys for being here so much. I want to, as always, in usual Kiss Army Things fashion, talk about the Kiss Spotlight. Now, we always talk about the Kiss music on the Kiss Army Things podcast, and it's funny because you and I have been talking a lot of business lately, and so we haven't had much time to talk about the music. But I'm really curious to know, if you could tell us what your favorite Kiss album is, or what's an album that means a lot to you, and why.
I like different albums for different reasons, but I'm 61, so like in 77 I was in 7th grade. I was 14. Alive 2 is definitely the first album I owned, and that's the album that really turned me on to Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
But then Destroyer's kind of at that time when I was young, Destroyer was probably the second album that I really got into. It had a lot of meaning to me.
Nice. So Kiss Alive 2. And if I'm not mistaken, your first show was also on that Alive 2 tour, right? Love Gun, right around there?
Yeah, Peter Criss's birthday.
Peter Criss.
77, yeah.
Wow.
December 20th.
What show was that?
That was they call it Largo, but it's outside of D.C.
Okay.
And that was kind of it's actually the Alive 2 tour. It was after the Alive 2 album came out. It's a continuation of Love Gun.
Right, and that's a Pro Shot concert too. So
and I got a Pro Shot.
How amazing! So there's no way that you knew that was being Pro Shot at the moment, right? That was just a lucky happening.
Well, DC had those jumbotrons as Houston did, and that's the reason why we have those Pro Shot shows or was it Dallas? It was Houston.
Yeah, Houston. Okay,
Houston and DC had those jumbotrons, which was kind of unusual back in the late 70s, and that's really so they had they'd have professional cameras, and that's why at every concert, sporting event, so that's why that stuff exists.
That's awesome. Yeah, I still haven't seen anything from my first Kiss concert, but that must be really cool to be a Kiss collector, to grow up and realize, my gosh, my first Kiss concert was professionally filmed.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's...
Oh yeah, I enjoy watching it.
That's so cool. Well, I'm going to do my Kiss Spotlight. Mine's going to be a little bit different, because we do the Spotlight differently. It can be your favorite Kiss album, it can be the Kiss album you listen to the most, or most recently, and for me, it's been a Kiss adjacent album, and you and I were listening to it yesterday in the car, Live to Win.
Yeah.
Live to Win right now is in my car just because I think it's a great summer album. I love that album. And did you get to see a show on that tour? I think you talked about it, didn't you?
I did. Took you a while to get into it, you told me, huh?
Yeah, well,
I didn't get it first.
We never had it. I heard it on South Park, and I knew that Paul had a song or had an album out, but for whatever reason, we never got a copy of it, and so I had to track it down when I was a senior in high school. And I was like, I've been missing out this whole time because it's, I think, a great album.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I saw a few of the Live to Win solo shows, and I did see the first one in Atlanta. I was lucky.
Oh, that's right, yep.
A bunch of my friends from Virginia, Baltimore, and New York, we all get together and go to events like that. It was an awesome show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I did not obviously get to see any of those shows, but we Daphne and I last year, I think it was, we watched that DVD he released for that One Live Kiss, and I was just thoroughly impressed. And I want to get your thoughts on this because Live to Win came out in 2006. Sonic Boom comes out in 2009. So that's it's only a few years apart. Do you think that Live to Win would have been better as released as a Kiss song?
unlike Gene's solo album, and Peter's solo albums, Ace's and Paul's do sound like Kiss.
Yeah.
They do sound like Kiss albums. Not all the songs, but many of them do. And you're right. That song definitely has a Kiss vibe. It would have been awesome if that was a Kiss song. Yeah, I think they would pull it off really well.
It makes me wonder if, what was going on at that time, because obviously, Kiss was in that hit and run stage, as it were. They're doing shows in Japan, a little bit here and there, and but I wonder if, they even were thinking about going into the studio at that time, or, could that even been a possibility, because I just think Live to Win, because it makes me think of Lick It Up.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks of the song Lick It Up as being, and yes, it has a tongue-in-cheek message to it, but the message of that song is, life is a treat, it's time you taste it. Live your life to the fullest, and then Live to Win, of course, is the same thing. And so I'm like, Lick It Up, Live to Win. Live to Win, I think, could have been the next generation Lick It Up. If it had been released, it could have been a huge single for Kiss.
It would have been a good single, you're right, it would have.
Yeah. But of course, that's like alternate history. But anyway, so there's our Kiss Spotlight. And of course, I'm always interested in knowing what the audience is listening to. So please leave yours in the comments. And speaking of your comments, also later on in the episode, we're going to be reading some of your guys' questions. Peter and I wanted to bring you guys in on the show. We had you guys ask some questions, and we're going to be looking at those here in just a little bit. But there's a song on Live to Win called It's All About You. And today, this episode, at least for right now, is all about you. So we talked a little bit about how you got into Kiss as far as Alive 2 and when that was. But how did you actually get into Kiss? Was it a person? Was it, was it something that you saw on TV? Like, what was that moment for you? Where it was
it was actually a person. I was in 7th grade. There's this kid that I got to be friends with on the first day of school, and he was wearing a Kiss shirt.
Nice.
And he would wear a different Kiss shirt every single day.
Sounds
and of
like
course,
me.
back then, it's like Kiss wasn't cool. Kiss was like, you get made fun of and picked on if you like Kiss. I mean, but it's weird because it was kind of like Michael Jackson was the same. Like, everybody loved Michael Jackson. He was just popular. Kiss is like extremely popular. A lot of people didn't like Kiss because they were just new and different, but a lot of people liked them and just, I don't know, pretended they did. And it was a weird thing. It's not like that anymore, but you had to live through it to know. You'd wear a Kiss shirt and people would walk down the street and yell Kiss sucks at you.
Oh, yeah.
They don't anymore, but they did, and it was kind of strange. So anyway, this kid, I had heard songs like Beth and Hard Luck Woman, Dr. Love, those, and Christine Sixteens, those songs are not your typical Kiss song. They're outliers, the singles like, Rock and Roll All Night. I really loved that song more than anything, but at the time it was just, a lot of bands had like one song that I liked, like Aerosmith, Jethro Tull, Bad Company, whatever. And then you kind of don't listen to the whole album. But then Alive 2 came out, and my friend, like I told you about, he came in and he was carrying the album like under his shoulder, and he carried it with him all through school to each class, and he would just take it out and he'd open up and look at the center,
the gatefold, yeah.
The gatefold, then he'd look at it again, and it was cool.
He's obsessed.
And and again, I figured, well, yeah, maybe they have a few good songs like rock and roll all night, but like Christine 16 and Beth and Hard Luck Woman weren't really rock and roll songs. They were good songs, and I actually did like them, but it wasn't like really like hard rock. So then I went home with the guy after school, and he put it on for me, and I got to hear what Kiss really sounded like, aside from the singles. Kiss always, I hope you don't get mad at me for this, but Kiss always put out crappy singles.
The singles were always, they were not
indicative of the band's sound. They were, sometimes, bands, well, any band, pop, rock, whatever, their singles trying to have the biggest audience. They want to let the old people, young people, the men, the women, people that are, just, and they tend to be a little more wimpy. We know that.
Yeah.
But when I heard like the real Kiss songs, aside from the singles, I was like, oh my God. And I remember I had like, I guess I went to church that weekend, and and I remember just the songs just running through my head over and over. I was just like, oh my God, they just wouldn't get out of my head, and they're just so awesome. And I saved up my money. I bought it. It was like $8.50 on sale. I got it, and that was my first Kiss album.
Kiss Alive 2.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, you obviously went to go see them. How many shows do you think you've seen at this point? Do you even have a number?
I lost track. I lost track after, I think, 160, but it's probably still under 200.
Well, hey, that's still a lot, though. It's more than anybody I know.
I know plenty of guys that
just followed them around.
Hit the 200 mark long time ago,
That's crazy. How many continents? You've seen them on North America? You've seen them in Europe?
Yeah, Europe.
Did you ever go to Australia?
Yeah, I went to Australia twice, actually.
Okay.
In 97, well, it was for 95 with no makeup, and then 97. Or was it 98? But one was with no makeup, one's with no makeup.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Europe, I've seen them in Japan a bunch.
You ever go to South America?
No, I never did see them in South America. So yeah,
that's still pretty cool, though. That's still a lot.
Yeah, that's yeah, definitely. It's fun to travel, get an excuse to go to Europe, and there's always guys there. The guys, the European collectors you meet that you buy stuff from, and they're just fun and hospitable. And I was young back then in my 20s, and we'd sleep on some Kiss fans' floor, some European Kiss fans. It'd be like this room, except all European Kiss stuff, and it was. It was, like they'd have a German pinball machine instead of the regular one. Cool stuff like that.
Have you ever bought any German Kiss collections or any other European Kiss collections before? It'd be kind of hard to do, I feel like.
Yeah, I bought like a suitcase full of stuff.
A suitcase full of stuff.
Not like a whole. You can't really get.
That'd be
that
hard
stuff
to.
Over. Yeah,
unless you're on a boat full of Kiss stuff.
Yeah, the shipping container would be nice. Yeah.
KISSmuseum on the sale. No, that's funny. So let's get into the collecting now, because you're a fan. At what point do you go from fan to a fan who's also a collector? Was that a natural thing? Was it a long-term thing? Or how did that happen?
What was strange was, at first I was really into their music, and I just liked their music. And it kind of came slower. Like, the music really hit me, and I was just like, when I heard Live 2, I was like, God damn, and that was it.
Yeah.
Collecting kind of came slower. I only had so much money. I was a kid, and I wasn't rich, and I didn't have parents that would just buy me anything I wanted, so I actually had to mow lawns and stuff. So yeah, primarily I saved up just to buy the albums. And I'd buy the newer albums when they came out. I'd go to the used record store and I'd buy the older ones to fill in, and then I'd find things like these weird singles, and it was great. So after I got that, it was kind of slow. It was like, I do remember being at my first Kiss show, and Peter would throw his drumsticks out, and of course when Paul threw his guitar out, I was just like, oh my God, if only I could have something like that. It's like an impossibility. I'd never own anything like that. The guy in the front row center at the 77 show, Paul just handed both pieces to this one guy.
Oh, man.
With all the people there, it's like, damn, I wish I was him.
Yeah.
But, over the years, I've caught 3 guitar bodies.
So now you know where to go now. So
yeah,
you're intentionally
It was like Memphis, Jacksonville, and Melbourne.
Oh, wow. So Australia,
yeah. I brought this broken guitar home in my suitcase. I remember Customs opened it and looked at it, and they were just like, they didn't say anything. They're just like,
good.
Okay, that's a new one.
Wow. Yeah, they've seen it all. They probably don't care. Smash guitar and whatever. That's cool. So you started collecting music first before it was
that was it for me. The music when I was younger, and the collectibles grew on me over time.
When you got these albums, I mean, of course, Kiss albums were notorious for coming with all kinds of goodies and things like that. So were you the kind to put the posters on your wall, or did you keep them all nice and tucked in the sleeve, or did it even matter to you? Was it just all about the songs?
Yeah, a little of both.
A little of both.
I had to put something on my wall, so yeah, I kept some of them nice, and I trashed some other ones. Yeah,
for sure. So as you get older, And you're like, you said you started the Kiss Museum, what, in your early 20s or mid 20s?
Yeah, I was 20. Well, that was in 87, really. So that would have made me 20, 23, 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in college and I had a collection. I needed money for college and I had to sadly part with it. And I got a lot more than I thought I would.
Okay.
So then I started. I had some other friends that. I had some friends. I always liked anything Kiss put out. When they took their makeup off, I still was just as loyal. It was just as exciting to see them. Just as I loved every album, every effort they made. But a lot of my friends they kind of lost interest after they took their makeup off. So I sold my friends' collections for them, and that's kind of what got it started.
Gotcha.
I started just buying and selling, and I was doing that part-time when I was in college, and then did that for 5 years, and I guess 90, what was that, 7, 8? Yeah, 92-ish, I went full-time.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask, how the Kiss Museum started, because obviously it makes sense for me, you're passing it on to me, and, you're kind of like guiding me in that way, but you were just on your own back then. You were, buying collections, selling collections. It was like,
yeah.
Did you ever consider another job? Or was this like, I'm determined to make this work?
Well, before the reunion tour I did, I kind of, when I graduated from college, I was like, gee, do I want to become an architect or do I want to sell Kiss stuff full time? And I was thinking, well, I'm doing it half time now and make this much money. If I did it full time, I'd make twice as much. And I was like, yeah, it was a good number. So my idea was, I'll just do it as long as I can. And remember, Kiss was not that popular back then.
Yeah.
They hadn't broken into mainstream culture. So even all the way through 95-ish, I was just kind of like, I kind of knew I was, I was like, I'm eventually going to have to get a real job. But when they got together on the reunion tour, I was just like, nah.
We're good.
I'm not going to have to get a new job. This is going to keep me going a while.
I think Gene and Paul said the same thing. No new job for us. We can keep going now. We can keep being Kiss. Yeah.
But as far as the origin of the name Kiss Museum,
yes.
At first I was just using my name. And I think it was until the late 90s I actually started calling it Kiss Museum. I think it was really 99, as late as that. And the reason I did that, not many people know this, it was before social media and everything, and people Kiss fans would always send me pictures of their collections. People are proud of their collections. In the mail.
Okay, yeah,
and
wow.
Sometimes online. Back then it took a long time for photos to download online.
Sure.
You could do it, but it was easier to just mail it. So
but
they were just
cool.
proud. They had some of these guys had nobody else to send them to. And then when the internet started to take hold, and you could send electronic photos. My idea for Kiss Museum was to have, it was going to be a dual site. It was going to be like an actual museum, and I wanted people to send in, photos of their collection, and then I would edit them and I'd put them in, sections, links, and that's just, again, there's no social media.
Yeah.
You only had like a static website with static pages, and the other half would be selling merchandise, and that's actually the way it was. I did have a split screen on my first version of the website. It had a museum where it was just to people show off their stuff, and I had some great stuff, and then the other side was just to sell, and they could, people just do whatever they want. And it just kind of, but then when social media came around, it's kind of like it became irrelevant, so it just it just evolved into more retail.
Right. Now, when do the catalogs come into play? Because everybody loves the Kiss Museum catalogs.
My first one. Well, I went to a school that had, I did architecture, and there was they had a lot of graphic art equipment, and I knew how to do layouts and stuff. So, other people were selling Kiss stuff. It wasn't just me. So I had to just stay on top and one up them. And people were doing, I was doing like Xerox copy catalogs and flyers and stuff and get a mailing list. You mail it out.
Yeah.
There was no e-commerce back. There was an internet, but there's no e-commerce. So and it was expensive, but I was like, man, I just got to stay on top.
Yep.
And so I got the programs. I learned how to use them, which was tough, Photoshop and Quark Express.
Quark, wow.
Yeah, you remember that?
Oh, that's what we did our newspaper in. Yeah, we used to lay our newspaper out in Quark.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, to learn Quark, that was like taking a college course. It was there's a lot to it.
It was weird.
And yeah, but I always say, either you do things the right way or the wrong. There's only two ways to do things.
That's right.
So I decided to do it the right way. So yeah, the color catalogs were a lot of fun. I really just enjoyed doing stuff like that. I enjoyed doing layouts and stuff. So that was fun to me. It wasn't work, but man, it was, oh God, I had to plan months in advance before Christmas, which was the big time.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to put out 2 or 3 catalogs a year. I didn't quite get them quarterly. I wanted to do them quarterly. I think I would do 2 or 3 big catalogs, and then I'd fill it in with 4 pages. The catalogs are at first 16, and then they grew to 32 pages.
Wow.
And they're collectibles of themselves.
They really are.
I buy collections, they're in there, and I'm glad people, really liked them, because, it was just fun for me, and I put a lot of work into it, and I put more work into them than I should have. You know what I mean?
That's the best part, though. That's the most fun part, is sitting there doodling.
Yeah,
and
I would do it and then redo it, and it's I don't have to. I just want to make it perfect, and
yeah,
just like a piece of, like I was making art or something.
Absolutely. I remember. I still don't know how my dad got them. I don't know how he found out about the catalog. Maybe it was somebody at work probably told him. He had a guy at work who, would say, hey, the new Kiss album, Sonic Boom, that's the name of the album, or it's coming out. So this guy at work would always feed Dad the news, so before we had the internet. So I guess maybe it was this guy at work that told Dad, but I remember waking up one Christmas morning, because Christmas morning you wake up and there's stuff. It's toys. Kids don't care as long as it's toys. You play with it for one day, it's junk, it breaks, you don't care as long as you got it, right? Well, one Christmas, when I was about 11, maybe 12, we wake up and most of it is just Kiss stuff. And it was there was a moment where it was a little freaky, because you're still kind of in that phase where you're is Santa real? Is he not real? It makes sense that he brings presents to good kids and not the bad kids, but how does he make it all the way around the world? And so I'm like, Dad, how does Santa know that we're Kiss fans? He goes, oh, he just knows. I said, no. This isn't you're lying. He goes, all right, fine. And he hands me the Kiss Museum, or the Kiss catalog. Yeah. And so Jeb and I were like, what? So we're flipping through, looking at all this stuff, and that's what started the tradition of every year, when the winter catalog came. He would say, all right, boys, I got, you guys can spend this amount of money, write your list, and we'll get the order sent off, and then on December 24th, we'd open that big box up. So December 24th was our Kissmas, and then Christmas Day we'd do, family dinner and all that.
Yeah,
and so
I didn't know that. That's cool.
It became a tradition, and so the very first Kissmas was, you see that Eric Singer drum head at the bottom, the white one?
Yeah.
It was that, and that blacklight poster over there, I remember, was 2 of the things.
You got that from me?
The white one, yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, you did. Oh,
yes, and then it came with a DVD, a signed DVD, and it's over there. So yeah, I'm a huge Eric Singer fan. I was into playing drums, and I wake up and see that, and I'm like, that's just too specific. You know what I mean? So that was exciting, because this is before going to any expos. I'd only seen Kiss once, so that was really crazy. When we found out about the Kiss Museum, there's a place you can go to. And I used to bring the catalogs to school, because I had a couple of casual Kiss fans who they didn't buy from, but they just loved looking at it. So they would say, hey, can I see that Kiss catalog? So I'd bring it to them and let them see it for a couple periods, and then they'd bring it back to me and all that. But I was sad to see it go, but obviously as time moves on, it became less relevant, right?
Yeah, what was it,
2014 was the last one.
Yeah, I mean, it was expensive. It was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, yeah.
To put it out, and you'd have to sell an awful lot of stuff to make back the money just from printing that catalog.
Right.
And let's just say it was I think it was 90 cents every catalog, the postage and the printing.
Yeah.
And I did bulk rate mail. I did
you got to think about postage too. Yeah, you got to. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just did a high volume of stuff, and.
But the catalog seemed to be less relevant, because it was hard to take orders through that, and it was just easier to do it through the website. Pretty much is basically what it is.
Yeah, at the end it was just the catalog just propping up the website, really, and it was really just you look at it was like an advertisement for the website.
people have, ever since, I announced that the Kiss Museum's coming back, about 3 or 4 people have separately asked, hey, will the Kiss catalogs be coming back? And
Oh, interesting.
And I thought about it, and my immediate answer was no, because we talked about it, right? It's just not as relevant. The website is king. If somebody orders something and sends in the order form, and then person B buys it online before it gets to you, it's like, okay, well, you have to return the money, and who wants to take checks and all that? So when they was asking me about the catalog, I was like, no, just because it's not relevant. And this, I'm just going to throw this out here, and we can obviously just talk about it, but I was thinking, what if there was a way to change the purpose of the Kiss catalog? Instead of selling Kiss merch, what if we just
make it like a museum,
like a yearbook almost, like class of 2025, where, because every year we're going to get different stuff. You see this a lot of the same stuff, but you get some pretty, again, guys, we're going to be showing some of the stuff later on, but you get different stuff every collection every year. So I was thinking, how cool would it be if we put together at the end of the year towards Christmas, this at the end of the year, like a class of 2025, where we just show the coolest items in the collection, things that you never see.
So it'd be stuff that you had bought that year, not just like a listing of.
No, it would be just the photographs.
Oh, that's a good idea. I never thought of that. That'd be awesome. Actually.
Yeah, I was trying to think, and then of course we wouldn't do it to the whole mailing list. Everybody could pre-order it, so we would only be making it on demand, and that way, we're not.
Yeah, you could probably, if you boosted it to be, from 32 pages, boosted it 2 or 3, 4 times bigger, then it'd be more like a magazine and magazine size. And wow, that's a great idea. I never had.
Yeah, I was because I agreed. I was like, the catalogs are pretty dope. They're nostalgic and they're cool, but how do you make them relevant in 2025? Because you can't really sell out of a catalog, but you can, like I said, become a museum where you kind of flip through and you see some of the.
Yeah, but I like the yearbook.
Idea.
I'd never even considered anything like that. That'd be cool.
That might be something to look into. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely stay tuned for that. Let me know what you think about that. That could be coming this year. I don't know. We'll see. We're just Peter and I have been having a lot of fun just going back and forth, sharing ideas.
Well, maybe I'll have to come out of retirement and help you lay that out too.
Hey, you're welcome here anytime, because that would be a fun one.
Because I've been retired for a year. I did briefly open the site a couple of times because I got some really good costume pieces and some really beautiful pieces. I just didn't want to put them on eBay. I wanted to do a special. But I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, sure.
What's I knew about Alex and I knew about you and I knew what you did. I was familiar with this. Alex would buy some crazy items from me, like the Paul Stanley 8mm.
Yep.
And, stuff that, one-off stuff that was just, I remember when he would buy stuff like that from me, I'd be like, damn, this guy, he's lucky he got this piece. He's the lucky guy who got this piece.
Oh, yeah.
So, Alex kind of knows he knows what good stuff is. But, after I retired, there's some people that had, said they wanted to buy it, but I don't think they were committed to quit their jobs and just do it full time. And it's a full time job.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they want to do it part time, but if you want to do it part time, just sell on eBay. I mean, there's a million people that do that part time. But Alex is the only one who just came out and kind of, I could tell right away he was the guy. Just enthusiasm. He was ready to drop his job. He was ready to convert his house into a mailing room. I mean. But I didn't know you really. I knew you casually. You were an acquaintance. You weren't a friend.
Right.
But my question is where did you get that idea from? How did you think you'd be able to take it over?
Take over Kiss Museum.
Why you and nobody else?
Well, first of all, there's a magic to Kiss, and I think I've talked a little bit about this with you. That obviously we, the band, the show, the merch, the collecting, the fans, and the fanzines and all that. There's a magic to Kiss and the Kiss fans that only exists because there are people fueling it. So of course, you can have 4 guys in a band, but it doesn't matter if there's no record label and there's no manager. And you have to have people in the crowd. So everybody plays their role, right? You did the Kiss Museum. There's other people like you that have been dealers in the past and done that. So I guess for me, it's just a matter of, trying to find my place. And the Kiss podcast is great. I love it. But I want to do more. I want to do more. I want to be a part of more. And the Kiss Museum, so that's number one. But Kiss Museum honestly just means a lot to me. I told you about the history that I have with it, my family, my brother. Literally, I would say comfortably 75% of the things in this room came from the Kiss Museum, or at least half of it, with the rest of it being...
I'd say 75.
Yeah, because, I was going to say, because I got my dad's collection when he passed, and I got Jeb's collection when he sold, and I've gotten some things from other people. So kind of like you just end up absorbing things. And so I love Kiss collecting, I love the Kiss Museum. And then third and finally, Kiss is all I'm good at. I mean, I never was into sports. I was never into, politics. I was never into anything else. I've never been into anything more than I am with Kiss.
Yeah, and I am too. I never really thought of it that way, but it's obviously true.
Yeah.
I do remember in college I would write papers about Kiss collecting. I'm not sure how that fit into my courses, but I know I did more than once.
Oh yeah, we'll shove a
the reason I did,
a round hole. Yeah.
But the reason was I did because, like you said, that's what I knew.
Yeah.
I had studied. It's like I had so much knowledge about Kiss collecting, their music, their tours, their, what they did. Beyond just being a fan, just the whole culture of Kiss and being a Kiss fan, which is, it's different. It's more like being a... You don't want to compare anything to the Beatles, but it's like it's beyond the band. There's a culture. It's not just fans of Kiss aren't just general rock and roll fans like Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin. I mean, sure, there's people that say those are their favorite bands, but is there like a big culture around it, like Kiss or the Beatles or the Grateful Dead? No, I don't think so.
It's not quite as strong. We're very passionate Kiss fans.
Yeah.
And I guess at the end of the day, I'm just passionate about Kiss. I'm passionate about Kiss Museum, and it means a lot to me, and it's worth taking over, and it's worth carrying it on. So.
Well, we've been working pretty damn hard the past several days.
14 hours. We've been putting it, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. It's been great, and I tell you what, I have not had more fun in the last couple of days.
I've enjoyed it all. I really enjoyed running it, and it was sad to go, but it's just I'm like I said, I'm older than your average Kiss fan. It was just time. It was just time for me to move on and do other things, and to pass it on to somebody younger. Didn't think it was going to be somebody quite as young as you, but I'm this guy looks and acts a little older than he actually is.
You think so? I think I act younger than I think I'm like an overgrown child, but hey, if you think that, I'll take that as a compliment.
I don't know. I mean, he can form complete sentences,
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that, I mean. It's like talking to an adult almost.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm glad. No, I tend to just think of myself as that same kid that, was... Again, flipping through the Kiss catalog. Because when I was a kid, it wasn't really about, like collecting in the sense like, oh, I need to have the most rare stuff. I need to have the most expensive stuff. I have something to prove to somebody. It was more about, in the beginning, it was, I need CDs to listen to Kiss and T-shirts to wear them. I wanted a T-shirt for every day of the week, which became every day of the month. I wanted every Kiss album. And then I guess just from there, it started to fill out. But yeah, so... To me, it just feels natural to step into this role. I contemplated once a couple years ago, like, man, I have amassed quite a lot. Wouldn't it be cool to start my own site or do my own thing? But thinking about starting a website, photographing everything, listing everything, doing all that research, and just launching that was so daunting. So it's kind of weird how I had that thought in my head a few years ago, and then fast forward to now, here we are. I don't even have to launch my own site, and all the stuff is already there, so it just really feels like a natural sort of changing of it's natural.
Well, real quickly, real briefly, tell people what we've done in the past week. We've done quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, so
first of all, we had to.
Yeah, so he shows up already with a collection. He comes down from Pennsylvania and says, "All right, let's unload." I'm like, "Huh?" He opens it up. And we've got a whole bunch of, I'm not going to go into it because we're going to show some stuff, but it's just all kinds of stuff. So we go ahead and unload. And I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. We got some good stuff. He goes, all right, let's get back in the truck. I'm like, do what? He goes, yep, we're going to, I won't say where, but we're going to go to.
Same day I arrived.
Same day, yeah. So we unload. He says, get back in. We're going to get another one. And so we drive for about an hour, met this really cool guy
Oh yeah.
who had some of the best stuff. I mean, we both walked in and we were just, our jaw dropped because you
Yeah.
had seen some of the stuff, but it's different going from picture to person.
Yeah, Scott. That was Scott, or was that Eric? Eric, yeah.
Oh, well, I think this guy was a Zach. I think Zach was.
Zach. We bought a lot of collections. In the
Yeah,
past
we
week.
thought. Was it James? Was it Jerry? No, I think it was
Well,
Zach.
I remember his daughter's name.
Oh, his daughter's name was Fraley. Yes, his daughter. He keeps saying Fraley, and I'm like, okay, you're an Ace fan, I get it. And he goes, no, Fraley, and I'm like, oh, the kid's name is Fraley. So
And that wasn't a nickname either.
no, that was her actual name. This guy's a huge Ace fan. He had Ace's name tattooed on his forearm, or had Fraley on his forearm. Had his daughter's name Fraley, and I mean the stuff he had was great because it was mostly altcoin stuff.
Yeah, it's real difficult to find a coin collections. It was mostly a coin stuff from the 70s, and it was real nice condition. The guy, some people don't care about condition. This guy did. He knows it. It's rare even just to find one or two single items in a collection of mostly Spencer's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But to find that much, that I was like really. I told him I'm really jealous that you got that one. That's something I really would have liked to have when I was doing the business. I haven't had a collection that good in many, many years.
Wow. Yeah, the cool thing about this for me is that obviously, I've been a collector for 20 years, but I've focused more on my era being that there's more availability for that stuff, but that's the kind of stuff that you only see, on websites or in pictures and things like that. So, getting to hold some of the stuff, the Halloween mask, and then the posters were incredible. We kept flipping through poster after poster.
Yeah, we got some choice posters from two of the collections we had just a ton of them, unbelievable posters that again you just don't see anymore, and we got dozens of them. It's like I don't.
Oh yeah, a couple of them are full sets.
Yeah,
most of them were for the 70s.
Okay, so yeah, but then after we got a third one.
Yeah, we get the third one, which is down in Kentucky.
That had the most volume, but it was, it was really good. Again, good stuff. The guy took good care of the stuff. It was more of the, Spencer's, the Reunion on stuff, which it's all really good stuff. That stuff's still really popular. And we were talking, now that it's been like over 25 years, that's considered classic.
That's the vintage stuff.
Vintage
now.
is the
my
word.
era is vintage.
After 25 years, like a car or whatever is considered vintage.
Wild
So, but again, just the shirts. Something about the shirts. They were just like this guy. He had like all the shirts from. He did have some 70s one, but he had all the ones from like Reunion. The late 90s.
Oh yeah.
And he had kept them like in wardrobe bags in a closet, so there's no dust. Even if a shirt's never been worn, if it's hanging up in a closet, it'll get faded if it's there's any light, or it'll get dust on it, which is like a big deal. Sometimes you have to lightly wash without any detergent these shirts because they look terrible even though they're unused. Just decades after decades of collecting dust. But they really look, they were printed yesterday, and I was shocked, and what did he have? 68 of them, I think.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we got some, looked through a bunch of them, got them listed and stuff, and then there's still another box.
Yeah, it was like no filler. It was.
Yeah, all killer, no filler.
Yeah, that's what it was. So, and then what did we do? Then we had to come back, and now we have to.
Oh yeah, well we spent probably like an hour plus loading up that one in like 100-degree weather. I mean, it was
fun.
It was hot. Hotter than hell. It's a KISS podcast. It was hotter than hell. We were hot in the shade. It was, heaven was on fire. We were like burn, bitch, burn. It was bad. So we get back, and again, yes, if you load, you have to unload. And so there we are again. We spent probably 20-30 minutes unloading that, and we just took a step back and realized I'm willing to bet there's more stuff in the garage than there is in here, or maybe just as much. There's quite a bit of stuff.
There's more.
There's probably there's more. So we just took a step back and we were just like, almost like Gene. It was like, oh yeah, like look at our spoils, look at the treasure. It was like a big treasure hunt is what it felt like.
Oh yeah, that's what I loved about the job. I loved coming home with a new truckload of KISS stuff and put it in my garage and just setting up and then just looking at it like, it was just the best feeling. And then the real work began. Now we got to do photos, we got to list it, and that's what we've been working on to get ready for the launch. But, Alex took to the software real well. He took over, and he's been working his ass off, and he's been retaking a lot of photos. He's doing it right. Alex is the type of guy who, again, does things the right way, not the wrong way, and that's the way I felt I was, and that's again, I know I sold it to the right guy.
Oh, well, good. I appreciate that. I think you did too. I'm happy, and I know that Kiss fans are really excited, which makes me happy because this has just been an absolute thrill. You have so many stories, and you have been sharing so many stories. So I kind of want to ask you real quickly: is there a story about what's a really cool story about a KISS member that you want to share that maybe nobody's ever heard before?
Okay, well, we're just getting started with this podcast, I think.
One that you can tell. How about that?
We're going to be here a while.
A story that you can tell about a band member that, that folks would just love to hear.
Give me a little more prompt.
How about Eric Carr? Give me
Eric Carr.
A good Eric Carr story, obviously.
I do. That one I was telling you about him at the bar.
Okay, yes, there you go.
Well, Eric, after in the 80s particularly, and then in the early 90s, particularly in the 80s, KISS wasn't as popular in the general public as they were after they took their makeup off, but damn, the diehards, it never changed. And I was a diehard, and I had a group of diehard friends, most of them in Baltimore or the New York City area, but a lot from Virginia as well. And we would travel together to KISS shows all over the place. And, we would... You'd always know what hotel they were staying at. I don't know how or why, but we always just knew, and we just go to the lobby and hang out. Sometimes nothing would happen. Sometimes, they'd come through. Sometimes they'd come through, and you could kind of tell they weren't, they were busy or tired. But more times than not, though, all the members were they'd stop, talk to us, sign autographs. There weren't that many. There might have been 6 or not even a dozen fans hanging in the lobbies, just kind of waiting.
Was it the same people every time? Was it you and the same folks? Yeah, hey!
Most of them were the same, yeah. There was the odd local person that would figure out where they were staying. But you would always see Eric. Eric would always come down. Eric Carr would always come down to go to the bar. He always liked to have fun, and he's a party person, and he came down to a good time. He was always friendly to the fans. We just said hi, and maybe we'd get an autograph or tell him something quick, but we didn't want to bug the poor guy. We had bugged him enough in the past, let me tell you. So yeah, we didn't want to be that fan. So we'd give him his space, and it was cool. But so a lot of the times I'd be just watching him from a distance, and which was just cool to be in the same room with him.
Oh yeah.
Just, you look over the bar, it's kind of dim. And these silhouettes of people. There's men in business suits. There's like a hotel bar, so there's a big mixture. Men in business suits, women in dresses. Eric with his big frickin' hair and a silhouette of that. It's like, it was awesome. But I remember this one story. It was kind of cool. There was this. It was kind of disturbing, but kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it was. There was some girl was in the bar, and she was obviously underage. I don't know. She was 15 or 16, but she was dressed up like she was older. And there's this creepy guy in a business suit who was buying her drinks and getting her drunk for not a good reason.
Right.
And then so she was getting drunk, and then the guy was trying to walk out with her, and it was so funny. And I was there, and I didn't really know exactly what was going on until afterwards, but I do remember this girl yelling. But what I understood happened was Eric was talking to some guy, and the girl was trying to walk out, and Eric didn't even look over at her. He just reached over and he grabbed her wrist, and he just held it. And he just keeps talking to this guy like nothing's happened. And this girl, she was really drunk, so it wasn't her fault. But she was screaming at Eric, going, "Yeah, you don't own me, leave me alone. Get your hands off me." But Eric just
said no.
Let her go.
I know better.
And then the creep guy he just I guess he left, fortunately. But that was kind of a cool story.
Eric stuck his neck out for a girl,
of course. And I don't think she was a Kiss fan either. I think she was just some underage girl at a bar.
What great situational awareness on Eric's part, because again, you said he was just talking to this guy, acting like nothing, but he still knew what was going on and stuck his neck out for her. So that's really cool.
Yeah, but he was always friendly. He was the most friendly, always making jokes. He was not like the other guys weren't, but he was just exceptionally, always happy to sign autographs, take pictures.
That's awesome.
Stuff like that, yeah.
There's one other story I want you to share real quickly if you want to, and it's the story about you visiting the Aucoin office.
Oh, God.
Can you tell that story?
Yeah,
Let's hear that one, because that one's crazy.
Me and my friend Tim from Atlanta. Tim was 19. I was 16. He just decided
you were 16? Oh, my gosh. I didn't know you were that young. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
16. This was like in 81.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did know. It was 81,
so,
yes.
My friend Tim was driving up the East Coast. He was going to pass through where I lived. He's going to pick me up. And we were going to go to his... he had relatives that lived in the New England area. And between where I lived, between Virginia and New England was, of course, New York City. So
oh, yeah.
We were going to make a pit stop. Come on the way up and back. So, God, we go up there, and I think we got there late, and we were driving around looking for, and we were like we were young, we were teenagers, we didn't have any money, especially for a New York hotel, and then we drive around looking for a place to park, and we were just going to sleep in the car, but we were like, New York City, that's kind of was dangerous. It's not like the Disneyland it is now. But, it's like Mayberry now. It's like it's a really nice, safe place, oddly. But anyway, so then we went to like Battery Park, which is, on the southern tip of the island. And there was some SUV, and there was a big, like a plaza. It was like a, pavement. I guess it's where the Staten Island ferry went, but it was closed. I think it was after midnight. And there's some SUVs there, and I think there were people like fishing or something. We're like, oh, it looks like people can hang out here. We didn't know what the hell we were talking. You can't stay overnight, but they were there kind of late. So we were just dead tired. We fall asleep, and we wake up, and there's just people crowded around. The SUVs are gone, but there's just people crowded around getting onto the ferry, because this is where everybody would load on, and it was just like, it's like our car was just like sitting somewhere where it shouldn't be.
Uh-oh.
And then there's this cop comes by, and he's like I guess he thought the car was abandoned. He sees us pop our heads up, and he's looking at us like, what? Are you kidding me? And I don't know. That just is, it was all like that. It was just crazy. Again, we were just kids. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. So anyway, the cop we told him what we were doing, and he's just like, oh my God. He's like, just get moving, guys. And so, but we wanted to get an early start because we wanted to go to coin management, of course.
Mm.
And we didn't have an invitation, or we didn't have an appointment. We just were going to show up and say, here we are.
There you go.
What else are you going to do? So that's what we did, first of all. And first of all, we're talking to, I don't know, my friend, he was a few years older than me. So he's talking to the receptionist, and she's just like, trying to be polite, but it's like, she's like, oh my God, another couple of crazy fans.
Yeah.
And we're talking to him. Eric walks out, and he's wearing his Boy Scout jacket.
Mm.
There's some photos of him wearing that, and he's wearing that, and he was like, I don't know, I think we were so stunned, I don't think we even asked for an autograph. And you couldn't ask for a photo because it was still 1981.
Right.
But he was, he was in a hurry, but he did stop and say hi to us, and he was kind to us.
Nice.
And we were just like, oh, that's the first Kiss member I ever met and shook
Wow.
hands with. I was like, damn, we were just like, okay, well, that's worth the whole trip. But then I think she said, I don't know what the hell we were trying to tell this receptionist, but just that, we drove all this way, so we got to have an audience with Bill. And I think she said Bill's not in the office or something.
Mm.
And then Bill walks out to the elevator, and we're just like, oh, okay. and we're saying like, you know, and we're just like, oh, Mr. Coyne, you know, we love Kiss. We came all this way, blah blah blah. Just like, you know, what a typical fan would say. And he was like, you know, he seemed impressed with us. He knew we were real fans. We weren't just, you know,
some goofing off, or
we were
some idiots.
We were the people paying the bills.
Exactly.
And so he was in a hurry, but he said, well, you know, I don't have time, or I'll show you the office. And I'm like, really? Well, we're coming back in a week after, you know, we coming back from New England. He goes, he's okay, we'll just stop on by. This day I'll be there. And we're like, really? Like, you do that for us? And so we come back on the way back, and this time we go to the reception, and we have an appointment with Bill Coyne.
Wow.
And so we go in, and we go into his office, and, you know, Bill was, you know, really cool. You know, we were teenage boys, but he was really cool to us. There was nothing, you know, uncomfortable or anything. He was very kind and polite to us. But he showed us that. I walk in there. He's sitting behind the desk, and on the one wall to the left, there's the original painting of Destroyer. And on the right, there's the marionettes, and then there's the slot machine, the KISS slot machine. And we're just like, damn. We're like, what is this? And he let us pick up the marionettes and play with them. And
that's really cool. Okay. Nice.
And I remember he told us that the string to Gene's tongue was broken, because he says, yeah, the string to Gene's tongue broken. Because every time somebody comes in, they pull that string.
That's, of course.
They want to see his tongue wiggle.
The tongue was mobile. Oh my gosh, that's great.
And then we were there. And then Sean Delaney comes in. He introduces us to Sean Delaney.
Oh my gosh.
And then out of this other door comes Billy Idol. This is 1981. And, you know, nobody knows who the hell he is. And he was like, oh, this is Billy Idol. He's, you know, he's going to be the next big thing. And I remember looking at him like, yeah, not with that freaky, not with that haircut, you're not.
Not looking like that.
Yeah, like where, yeah, it's still long-haired rock and roll was still kind of in then. And then what else did he show? I mean, we were walking down this hall, and in the hallway, there's this other picture of Destroyer, but it's them wearing the Alive costumes. And I swear to God, you know, there are pictures of that alternate Alive costume. It has more of the gold and the blue color to it. You know what I'm talking about.
Is this the alternate cover for Destroyer?
Yeah, did I say Destroyer? Or...
Yeah, I think, let me...
Sometimes
I think this is the one we're talking about. This right here?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, but, you know, I swear to God, that one looks more finished. The one I saw looked more like a sketch.
Okay.
With paint,
wow.
with paint, not like with a pencil, but it looked more rough. It's almost like it was a rough version of that, and then that was a rough version of the final Destroyer cover. I could be wrong, because, you know, I just walked past it, and I was like, you know, of course I'm like, what the hell is that?
That's not Destroyer. That's
and
Destroyer.
I was like,
but...
I thought I was dreaming.
Yeah.
And God, and
Bill's like, oh yeah, that's just, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it was just real quick. Oh yeah, he says, yeah, that was the original cover, but then they changed it because they had new outfits, and that's all he told us. And we were just like, what the hell was that?
What?
Okay, and then when we were leaving, we get in the elevator, and then the whole band of New England, just the four of them, hop in the elevator with us.
My gosh.
And, you know, New England was the band that Paul produced, and they were on Casablanca as well.
Yep.
And John Fan is like holding he has these two grosses of guitar picks. And I was a big New England fan too. I was really into that. And I was like, oh man, you know, New England, oh, I love you, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then he didn't say anything back to me. He just takes the bag, he opens it, and he like hands each of us half a dozen picks.
Man.
That was kind of cool. And then we went to Madison Square Garden. And they had a big poster of Ace in the front of Madison Square Garden. They had a section where they would have, I think, 6. They'd have 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Big, oversized posters. They must have been 4 by 8 feet. And there's that one of Ace leaning back with a guitar, which I took a picture of, and I swear to God, I've never seen another picture of it. But and then we saw Van Halen then in 1981. That was the end of our
Wow.
another Kiss related band. We saw that was a cherry on top of our trip. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted you to tell that story because there's like 4 or 5 times where the story could have ended and it would have been a great story, but there's always an end then. And then, like, you went to the encore and you met Eric. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And then Bill came out.
No,
and then
then
Sean.
I forgot that wasn't it.
Oh, here we go.
As we were waiting to get in for Van Halen, you know, if you've ever been to a concert in Madison Square Garden, especially in the summer, it's so much fun. There's space to like hang out outside on the street and, you know, just freaky rock and roll looking dudes, and you're just making friends. And you could like, somebody gave us beers. I mean, I didn't really drink beer, but it was like, well, you know.
Someone's like, hey, here you go. You're like, oh, whatever.
And you could like drink. There were cops there. They didn't care. I don't know. It was a little more Wild West back then.
Yeah.
But I met Vinny Gonzalez. There's a bunch of guys that had Kiss tattoos. Like this guy had Kiss tattoos on his finger, and this guy had Kiss tattoo on his arm. And you know, again, I'm in high school. This is '81. It's like that was unheard of. Like somebody with a Kiss tattoo. I was like, oh my god! Like how does that even work? Because like Kiss fans weren't old enough to get tattoos. And I think it was one of them was Vinny Gonzalez, but I think it was also the Barlotta brothers were the other ones. I'm not 100% sure, but they were mega fans at the time. But you know, Vinny Gonzalez, he also went by the name Fat Vinny. He was like the Kiss fan.
R.I.P. Vinny.
Of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And boy, he says, yeah, you know, he was a real character, but he's like, yeah, you know, we just saw them in the studio. They're recording that new album. It's like going to be a concept album. And we're like, oh, that's interesting. And he's like, because we had kind of heard about that. Then he said, yeah, and they all just cut their hair last week. And what do you mean cut their hair? Yeah, he's got hair as short as this guy. And he pointed to some guy with like really short hair. And we're just like,
Kiss?
no, Paul didn't cut his hair that short. And he's like, yeah, Gene has like a ponytail with bones or claws coming down. And we're like,
yeah, right.
I don't think so, but okay, whatever you say. And yeah, that was but it was just, you know, just to run into these mega fans at the, not mega, Vinny was the top Kiss fan.
Mm-hmm.
I guess of all history, really.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, what a nice, and we talked to him. He would tell us about how he said, yeah, Kiss would come over and my mom would cook him dinner and stuff.
That's amazing.
And again, it's like, what the hell are you talking? Everything he said was so crazy, but of course it was all 100% true.
Exactly.
Even if it was years later that we found out, you know, we soon found out about the Elder was true, of course, but then the stuff about him having him over for dinner and stuff and just being, you know, they were giving him all their costumes to hold on to, and that was all true. He wasn't, he was, if anything, he was being modest about things. But yeah, what luck to run into him at such a young age.
That's amazing. But you liked the Elder too, right? You thought the Elder was good when it came out.
I loved the Elder. I really did. I was really into it.
Good. Yeah. How did you feel about Tommy and Eric taking over?
Well, you know, without Tommy and Eric, the band would have disappeared. You know, that's. I don't think there's anything more to say beyond that.
Well, that's a good point, because when we think about the farewell tour and how that farewell tour ended, there was no Madison Square Garden show. There was no pay-per-view. There was. Do you even know what the last show was on the farewell tour?
Yeah, it was in Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina.
On the farewell.
Right. Yeah.
The last one with the 4 original.
Yes,
members.
4 original, but the last one. Period. Dot. There was no, like we can always say, you know, end of the road tour, December 2nd, New York City, but there was no final date. It was just like they just petered out and they were done.
It was just a regular tour. There was no special date. That just happened to be, logistically, that just happened to be the last show. That's when Peter smashed his drum set on stage, which was cool. Yeah. That was actually pretty intense.
It was. It looked cool for some people.
I was right up there in the front row when he did it, and I was just like, holy shit, it's like going back to 75 or something. Yeah. And you could tell there's just a lot of frustration with the guys. Yeah. And, you know, boiling over. And but, yeah, it was kind of a random show to end it on.
Yeah, it just makes me think, like, because I can think back to when that tour was happening. I was only 5 years old. I was a brand new fan. So I felt like, oh, no, I have to, you know, enjoy it now because it's all going to go away. And so when I think about it, like, if it had gone away, it makes me wonder, you know, would all of this be here right now? Would I still be as big of a fan as I am? I would never have seen any Kiss shows because my first show was in '03. So, I mean, for me, I owe it to Tommy and Eric because
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
because
Yeah,
they,
I mean, really,
they saved the band.
In a way, they're the ones that kept it together. It wasn't for them, we wouldn't have had all these, not years, decades.
Yeah, 25 years. I mean, Kiss has been around for 50 years, and Tommy and Eric were in it for over 20. That's wild to think about. Like, they are a huge part.
And I will tell you, Tommy and I've put on a lot of Kiss conventions. Tommy and Eric are the best guests we've ever had. My God, they come in, they are on time, they're ready, they're prepared, they treat every single person fine from start to beginning. They don't start to get tired and crotchety. And then they stay longer than they were. Especially Eric, he likes to talk to people and ask random questions about their watches. Eric's a watch collector.
Yep.
Whatever. And his line goes real slow, but then he stays till 1 a.m. and he spends just as much time with the last person as with the first. And it's just a pleasure to work with him. He really loves the fans and really represents the band in a good way.
What was the last show you got to see? Did you see any shows on this last tour? Surely you did.
Yeah, I saw the final show.
Oh, you were there in New York at the Garden.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, great. Perfect. I think I did know that. Yeah. Okay, great. How do you think about
my job to be there?
That's your job. Yeah, now it's my job to, I can't go to Kiss shows necessarily, but so what did you think about the avatars when that happened?
I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Okay.
Obviously they were like rough versions of what the final stuff was going to be. They probably shouldn't have showed the rough versions because there were just too many questions. Like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And it's like, it should have been, if it was finished, then there would be no what the hell is this. It'd be like, oh, that's cool. It's probably going to turn into something cool, I'm sure. But, they had the avatars, but they had the screens in the back.
Yeah.
They had projections onto them. And it was done in a way where it really did look like the faces, they looked two-dimensional, but they really looked like they were floating. They had 4 these elongated screens, and not everybody got to see it because there was an extra amount of smoke that went over the ground, the people on the floor. So the people on the floor couldn't see what was going on with those screens in the back. And what I've seen in video, it doesn't really represent what it looked like, how cool it looked. But real quick, and it was like, you could see, it was like a scrim. So it was like a see-through type. You could see through the screen. It looked kind of smoky almost. It was almost invisible. And they would project their face and top of their chest on each member on each screen. But then, like, digitally, it was only projecting their face. They had, they were able to digitally remove
the background,
the background completely. So there's no, usually when you see a movie, if you see something black, there's still,
you can still see the fringes on the outline.
Yeah, there's still light being projected. It's not really, it's just really gray. But there was absolutely nothing, no light at all, which made the outer part of the scrims, I guess you call it, or screens, appear almost invisible. You'd have to look real close to see them. It almost looked just a little smoky, but their faces were just bright and popped out. And I've really honestly never seen anything quite like that. It was an interesting technology. Yeah. And it was very stunning, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like, obviously we haven't seen it yet, but it sounds like they're trying to, Kiss reinvented the live show back in 73, 74. Sounds like they're trying to reinvent the live show in 2025, or I guess 2027. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But that's cool that you got to be there at the last final show.
Yeah, I wouldn't have missed that for anything.
Good.
And, it took them a while to do it, but they finally did.
They finally did, yeah. So we want to, of course, show some stuff here in just a second, but we have some viewer questions. I wanted to bring the viewers on. So we have some viewer questions here that I thought we could just continue the fun here. So this is coming from Greg Sonic. Greg is one of our Patreons, so shout out to Greg. Greg wants to know, looking forward to seeing and hearing Peter on the show. Question for him, were you aware at the time that Bruce Kulick was going to replace Mark St. John for the Animalize concert in Detroit that was taped for video, MTV concert, and live on the radio? And were you there at that show? So did you know that Bruce was going to be replacing Mark St. John?
At what show specifically?
The Animalized Live Uncensored show in Detroit.
Oh, that one.
Did you know that?
Hi, Greg. That wasn't part of my job. I am a professional KISS fan by which is my profession, but that wasn't part of mine. Still, as far as the information about tours and stuff, I was into the merchandise. That was more. I just knew as much as any fan knew. But
you kind of like see the writing on the wall, right? I mean,
but personally, I did go to that Animalized Live Uncensored show.
Oh, you were there. Great.
Again, that's my job to be there.
Bingo.
And I got stories about that too.
Oh man.
But anyway, we'll
be
here all night.
We'll be here all night. Yeah, it's 4th of July, so we got fireworks to go to at some point.
So what was I? So, it's kind of. It was cool because, Bruce is Bob's brother. That was kind of cool to have in the band. But, Mark had already been on an album, and it's just kind of like, they're playing revolving guitarists.
Right.
It was just a little weird. You didn't really know what was going on.
Gotcha.
Because they were kind of both in the band at the same time there. But yeah, I was pretty much, to answer your question, I was kind of just speculated like all fans did. I didn't have any other inside info.
Did you get to see a show with Mark? He was only there for 2.5 shows. Did you get to see any of those shows with Mark St. John?
No. Or did I? Because there was 2 or 3 shows where he came out and did a partial show.
He played a half show in, I don't know, I think there was a show in Poughkeepsie he played, and I think he played in Binghamton.
And Baltimore.
And then Baltimore might have been the half show. Yeah, I think Baltimore was the half show.
Oh, I thought there's 2 half shows and a full show, but
maybe there is.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think there's 1 half show and then he played 2 full shows and that was it.
Okay, but I was at a show somewhere in the New England area when he was not playing.
Okay.
But he came out for whatever reason to the soundboard, like in between the opening act and for KISS.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and walked out there.
Wow.
And I was near there and I was like, that's Mark. And I walked up and and nobody recognized him at first until I went up and started talking to him, shook his hand, and started freaking out like a little kid would.
Oh, but that was nice for him, though.
I was in the crowd, was like, "What? Hey, yeah, that's Mark," and that was an odd meeting.
That's a chance encounter right there.
Yeah, that's a chance encounter. But real quick about the Alive 2. I'm sorry, what am I talking about?
Live Uncensored.
Uncensored. Oh boy, the Live Uncensored taping. Somehow I was backstage. I don't know why I would be backstage, but I was somehow. And I had I did the Florida KISS convention for 5 years, and I was wearing a big Florida KISS convention sweatshirt and I did the design for it and the layout, and I was all proud of it. And I was acquainted. I had friends that were friends with Eric, so he knew who I was. We were acquainted. We weren't like buddies. He wasn't coming to my house to eat,
like Vinny.
Yeah, but he was saying, yeah, I like that shirt. He says, I don't know exactly what he said, but for whatever reason, he was like, yeah, can I wear it tonight? I'm like, what do you mean? We'll take it off. I'll get you a shirt from the merch stand, and I'll cut the sleeves off, and
oh wow.
I'll cut the sleeves up and I'll wear it. And it's like, it was weird because, this is they're filming a home video that night. You think he would have prepared what outfit he was going to wear.
Right.
But he just randomly just said, oh, cool shirt. Yeah, I want that.
Wow.
Do you want to swap? And there's, he's behind the drum set the whole time. You can see it. But there's some actually good photos in magazines and when he came out to throw drumsticks out, and he's wearing it, and it was like
he's wearing your shirt.
Yeah, so the whole show I was watching, I was like so proud of myself.
I would be too.
I was like, holy shit! I can't believe he's wearing something I designed. Or he basically really the shirt that I off my back that I was wearing. There he is wearing it. It's like what an odd thing to.
That's a great story.
Yeah, you come to a KISS. You go to a KISS concert and you leave without your shirt.
Because the drummer took it. The drummer took your shirt and he wore it for the show. Thank you, Greg, for that question. Hopefully that answers your question because that was more than I ever could have asked for. So this one comes from Rick. This is from our good friend Rick over at the YouTube channel It's All For You Demon. He's a huge fan of Kiss Museum. He's been buying from you for a long time, and he wants to know specifically, were the 90s ancient Kiss videos created on demand or stockpiled in VHS?
Say that again. I think I know what he means.
The ancient video series that you did, ancient video
Yeah.
one. Like, so were those just done on demand, or did you have like a stockpile of those tapes that when people mailed in, you would just?
I don't know if I should tell.
Oh yeah, okay, for sure.
Well, seriously, when I was doing, I sold. I'll call them that's what we called them, bootlegs.
Boots, yeah.
Of course, the real word is just copies, because they were all unreleased. It wasn't like I was going to the store and copying store things and trying to make it look like a store-bought thing. They were
bootlegs.
Yeah, they were for fans. They weren't for. It's not we were trying to compete with official items.
Of course not.
I would just copy tapes onto blank tapes. I didn't have any artwork on them or anything, and I just did as a fan. And, if Kiss ever said, hey, we don't like you doing that, stop it, I would have stopped it. I wouldn't have argued or complained.
No.
I did it in a big way for a while when it was popular, as well as selling other merchandise. But I did because I loved it. I freaking loved hunting down audio and video that was unreleased, or just these unreleased shows. Loved it more than anything in the world. I would just watch them and so many times, and that's just how I got into that. But I would. It seemed, even though it seemed like I did it on a big scale, I mean, compared to other people I did. And again, when I was in college, everybody else was in high school. Most fans were in high school, and then there's people that were a little older, like Ken Sharp, he was a professional journalist, and stuff he did was just he's a few years old, but just a few years older. It's like he's just light years ahead of me, and working with the band professionally, doing professional interviews, which I thought was mind-boggling. And so I would just make them as they came. It was really a small operation. In my living room, I had a couple of VCRs, and I dub tapes,
right.
And yeah, I didn't have big wall of
so it wasn't like you had
or anything. It was I was still living in my college apartment, which was a college apartment is a slum apartment with no children. That's what that is. So yeah, I was, and I never really made any, and I was still doing that part-time. I'd never made any real money until I went legit after the reunion tour and started doing just all official merchandise. But before the reunion tour, there was almost nothing. There's an occasional this or that t-shirt or cup or mug, but you kind of had to make your own stuff back then. The fans wanted it, the diehards wanted it, but it just wasn't being produced.
Wow. That's awesome. I know the tapes and the newsletters too were a big thing for a lot of people. Speaking of newsletters, this one comes from Greg is it Aldana?
Greg Aldana? Greg. Hey, how's it going, Greg?
Yeah, Greg says.
In a while.
Greg says, Peter, we had so much fun trading videos and our fanzine, Black Diamond magazine.
Yeah, Black Diamond. That's right.
During the convention craze of the 80s and 90s, when new audio or video discovery was a big deal. What is the best classic video find to surface recently? I'm still looking for the Madison Square Garden shows from late 77, 79. So what's a recent, or the most...
When you say recent, if you mean recent, after the internet could do streaming, I don't know. I really got out of doing the videos in the late 90s after the reunion tour. Still, as a fan, I would collect it, but I would stop copying and dealing tapes. I was just too busy with the official merchandise.
What was a tape that just blew your mind?
As far as recent, again, now I honestly just know as much as your average fan does from watching YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching. There's so many cool stuff on Kiss. Although I'll tell you, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that's, they found really good quality sources, but there's a lot of stuff there that I have on video that's shit. If you can say that on your broadcast.
Yep.
Well, shit. I would collect, and I would try, I would upgrade. I'd get like a, like a, not necessarily a full concert, but you get a clip, like a rare interview or an unreleased interview or a commercial, and it'd be crappy. Then you'd find a better version. I'd always upgrade as well as just get the actual stuff. So I was always upgrading. Find some good quality stuff. I still have those videotapes. Some guy said he wanted to buy them from me. I'm thinking of putting them up on eBay. But I have stuff that, even though with all the stuff that's on YouTube, and there's a lot of stuff on my master tapes that are just haven't surfaced on
you still have
YouTube.
those,
or when they have, they're in really bad condition where the stuff I had was really nice.
I have a question. Are those digitized yet?
No, I never digitized anything.
Before you sell those, you may pop them over here. I could transfer those to digital because I have.
Guess that's where they're going.
I have a way. Daphne just transferred over her home videos from when she was a kid, all her family videos. I'm doing mine next, but that would be interesting that'd be really cool to preserve some of those tapes in a digital format, especially if you're saying that some of these are really high quality. That might be a cool project to do.
Because I would collect the concerts. Either pro shot or people would sneak in. Sometimes would sneak in a video camera, and just do an amateur shot. Which a lot of those amateur shots are beautiful. Those are beautiful. Some of them are pretty crappy or shitty, as we say here. But damn, I should have brought them up with me. But I guess.
That was something for the future.
I'll get them to you. But the ones I'm really thinking of, the ones I would just get whenever I got like a small clip of something, I'd put it on a 2-hour tape, and I'd fill up 2-hour tape after 2-hour tape, and then I would also upgrade as I got it. But that's what you should be really interested in.
Oh yeah.
That's the one where I just don't see all that stuff on YouTube that I have.
I would love to get a hold of that and, like I said, preserve that, transfer it, and then if you want to, I'll mail it back to you, and you can. I'm sure somebody out there would just love to have.
You can keep it, Alex. Don't.
Hey, there you go. I'm sorry, guys.
I'm retired now.
He's retired now, so hey, yeah. Well, I'm just getting started. So, but speaking of tapes, though, this one comes from someone called Hammer UK. Wants to know, how were you able to track down the best audio and video? Somebody once accused you of breaking into the vault. LOL. People will say anything. Thank you, Mike, your West Virginia buddy. So how did you actually, if you want to talk about it, how did you...
Mike, how did I break into the vault? Is that what you're saying?
Well, he's saying, how did you get a hold of all this stuff? Because somebody was joking, saying that you did break into the vault. But how is it possible that you can get this stuff?
What vault are you talking about? Like, what the hell is that?
So there's a mythical... fans think that there's a vault that exists that has all the tapes, master reels, DVDs, 16 million reel-to-reel, this physical location.
Nothing I know of.
Nothing that you know of.
Break into the vault. Well, if there was one, perhaps I should have done that. No, I mean, I was just networking. It's like, there was no internet, but still people were... It wasn't the Stone Ages. People still had telephones and snail mail, and I had friends, and we'd get together at KISS shows. We'd sit around, talk for hours at night. All the information would get around, and people would say, "Hey, I got this, you got that. I'll trade you this, I'll sell you that, I'll whatever." It's just from fans. And, somebody always gets something. Like there's always some KISS fan that has a older uncle or something that works in TV or in the news or something, and he's like, yeah, he got like this raw, like a raw, just taping an interview off like a news interview off the TV. That's one thing, and they're nice to have, but
they're interlaced.
But then just to get the raw, unedited feed from a radio station. It's not that difficult because there's just people that know people. There's 6 degrees of separation, they say.
Yep.
So it's like, I know this guy, his uncle works for this radio station, TV station. He knows his nephew likes KISS. He's like, why don't I grab him a copy of this? And then it comes to me. It's just like that. It comes from everywhere.
That's
nowhere,
so cool.
No specific way. Me personally, I didn't have connections like that. I just had connections with fans and collectors. So I never got anything from the source, or I never called up anybody in an office wearing suits and did a deal to get video. No, it was just it was all
very peer-to-peer, it sounds like.
Yeah, just all fans and friends, yeah.
That's so cool.
But that's what Kiss collecting was all about. It's not business, it's just it's just a hobby that you make money off of. I don't know.
Yeah, everything has a story to it, everything has a memory and a
hobby that pays your rent, yeah.
Hey, that's the best hobby right there. So we have one more question. It's kind of funny I'm asking you this, but here we go. Johnny Grosinger and also someone named Herman Crawford wanted to know as well. So we have Johnny and Herman want to know, are there any conventions coming soon?
Johnny, I don't know you, but damn, I know Herman.
You know Herman Crawford?
Good to hear from you, Herman. Wow, we go way back to the 80s. Conventions. Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's where maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, I'd like to. Even though I retired a year ago, I really just retired from KISS merchandise. Mm-hmm. And my idea was to be able to still do KISS conventions because, you know, all you need is a phone. You don't need to have a house full of KISS merchandise.
Yeah.
But you know, we were talking about this. Things change. Things evolve. The KISS conventions evolved. They used to be just for merchandise, and then they started adding special guests or tribute bands with merchandise. And later on, the merchandise became much less relevant. It was more, Keith and Steve up at the Indianapolis Expo, they've had Gene and Paul.
Yep.
They've had all the original members at their conventions. I've had everybody pretty much except Gene and Paul, but that's special. But you know, it's for some reason now, I don't know, they just don't work, but they will in the future. Like, things always change, economics, what people want. You know, KISS isn't touring anymore, so you know, we'll have to see. You know, really, every time I put on a convention, it's just kind of like, it's almost like, you know, I'm kind of always planning and I'm ready to jump on it. And then, because I remember there's this one I was doing in New Jersey, and Keith LaRue called me up and he said, you know, I told him, says, hey, we want to have Eric. I think we had Tommy the last time. We want to have Eric. If we can get Eric, we'll put on a convention. And, you know, month after month, it's like, he wasn't, you know, his schedule wasn't clear. But then Keith calls me and says, Eric has a date. He's free. Let's do it. And we were like, what day is it? And he told me, and we were like, okay. And we did it. And man, it was a kick-ass convention, let me tell you. So that's really the way it does. It's not really planned out as much as you think. It's just things have to all fall together. Yeah. And you just kind of, you keep it out there, and you know, when it happens, basically. Yeah, we've been talking about something maybe in Indiana this year. The fans on the show have heard about it. They're really excited. So me too. That may be something that we try and do this fall. Once we, of course, get the KISSmuseum up and going, the next thing is to maybe look forward to putting on an expo or a small-scale convention for the KISS fans in the Midwest, or anybody who maybe isn't able or wanting to go to the Vegas event can still celebrate 50 years of the KISS Army here in the birth state. So, and you said that you might be interested in heading out to that event too yourself, right? Just kind of hanging out and coming down. Yeah. Oh, I'll be there. Of course I will. There you go. So, I mean, it's not my job anymore, but it's still your hobby. It's still your hobby. It's what I want to do in my retirement. Is exactly. Travel to KISS events. Bingo. As a fan and not as a tax write-off. Right, exactly. That's my job now. I'm the one, I'll be the promoter, and I'll be the one running the tables, and you get to show up and just have fun. That sounds nice to me. Exactly. Just have fun. We're switching places. All the fun, none of the responsibility. Bingo, exactly. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get some information on that, but right now we're focused on the KISSmuseum. Prepare for the craziest collector's corner that you guys have ever seen on this show. Oh, yeah. We're about to show just a sliver of some of the things you guys can expect on the launch date. So I want to start with the first item here. That's probably the oldest item we're going to show just right here. But tell us what this is and why this is so special. I think fans will know, but this is insane because what is this? Sure. I mean, fans know what this is. Yes. But it's the KISS radio in the box.
in the box.
And a real minty one, too. The boxes are pretty flimsy, so they would fall apart rather easily. And there's people that would make copies of these boxes, but those were obviously crappy. This one has, just sharp graphics, and it's real slick printing finish.
How often do you see them with the box at this point? I've never seen them in the box.
Often, God, they were more common in the 80s and 90s, but it's been a while. This one's kind of in plastic. Still has the bottom door. That's always missing. Oh, it's gone now. And it's that's why it's always gone, because it falls out. But this one's just beautiful. And again, I was a KISS dealer for almost 40 years, and it's, even back in the day, these are hard to get a hold of, especially in this condition. This one's beautiful.
Yeah, this one is in the plastic, in the box, and yeah, when I saw that, I was like, wow, because I've seen them, and I think we have another one too, a radio that's not in the box out there, I believe. So for anybody who, this is a holy grail item of yours, you might want to, you can take a look at this as well as the other one that we have. But yeah, I wanted to show that one because you don't see the box anymore. And so I think that, this would be one thing that, you would see in our, our yearbook, as it were, the KISS Museum yearbook. Because again, the case, this box, as you can tell, is in really great condition, guys. And I'm going to put that right there so that we can just look at it for the rest of the show. Let's see. Why don't you show what you got over here? Let's talk about this.
This is nice. Now, first of all, we got just dozens and dozens of these posters, and they were kept in frames. Now, this one just jumped out at me. This is it's a Creatures of the Night poster, but it's a store promo. On the bottom, it says "Not for sale," and what's it?
Universal. It says USM International, a Universal Music Company. So,
and there's been problems with people reproducing older, rare posters. You can just look closely and you can tell if it's a little fuzzy and not. This one's just razor sharp graphics. It is and the guy that we bought it from, he had posters. He had a few that were reproductions that he pointed out to us, but he didn't have to because they're obvious. But all the other ones were real nice classic ones. And again, I don't think as a dealer I never sold this one.
Wow.
Certainly not in this condition. I came across some other promo ones from Creatures, but this one is different for some reason. I really wish I could go home with it.
So this is something that you would probably have seen in the store when the album was coming out. Yeah. This would have been on display in the store. Wow. Yeah, I don't know how this would have stayed in such good condition, but I'm glad it has, because
it's in the frame.
It's going to make somebody happy. Yeah, for sure.
And that isn't the only one. There's just dozens and dozens of posters that are just as good.
We could sit here.
The best. It's just it's got an amazing poster collection.
Yeah, we have Mylar posters, full set of those. Solo album posters. We have.
Yeah, we have the Mylar. Not the. I guess they're called the Mylar, the Destroyer and Love Gun.
Oh yeah, the Mylar shiny reflective Love Gun and Destroyer. Yeah, those are really cool too. I think the oldest one I saw was from like 75. I was looking for the copyright.
You got the 75. It's beautiful too.
It's really cool. So, and then what else should we show? We've got a few other things here. I'll go ahead and show this because it's from my era, and you guys know I'm a sucker for anything Psycho Circus. That's my first album. So anything Psycho Circus imagery, I immediately gravitate towards. But this is the 23 karat gold trading card that came out by KISS, was it KISS Army Depot, I think it was?
Yeah.
And Signature Superstars, yeah. So this one is number 134, 23 karat gold, and it's in great condition. Luckily, the person put it in this. Did they come in these little sleeves like this,
was
it just? It did. Okay, good.
They did. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they were. They didn't come in the packs. They were sold separately, but that one always jumped out at me as far as the newer items. It's a small item, but it's awesome. And plus, there's tons of just trading cards. This is just a representation of what we have.
We've got Donruss cards, a whole stack of them. I think a couple stacks of those, and then we even have a couple that are still in the packs.
Yeah, there's a couple packs. Yeah, there's packs.
First series, second series.
Briefly saw those as we were going through it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so there you go. Psycho Circus 23 karat gold right there. Of course, gold never loses its value. But there we go. There's that. We got a lot of shirts too. The shirts that came in.
Yeah, we got some nice ones.
We had a fun time going through the shirts. This one is one that seems to be pretty rare. I don't know how many folks have actually seen this one, but you can tell it's quite colorful. It's quite vibrant. It's one of those full all over prints, which you gotta love. Check out the Chikara symbol on the sleeve there. That's nice.
And best of all, it's got the tags. Never been worn. But again, we just got like dozens and dozens of ones that are just as good as that.
Yeah, same image on the back there. Winterland Productions. Let's see if I can get a year on this.
That was 97-ish.
97-ish. Yeah,
Wasn't
sometimes it's really obvious.
Or
And
I
then
could be
sometimes
wrong.
it's really hard to tell. There it is, right here at the bottom. 1990. It almost looks like a 92, but there's no way. It is. 92?
Wait a minute. It was 92.
92.
Yeah,
Wow.
No, I apologize.
I didn't think it was that early.
I should have known better. I do remember, back in the early 90s, they weren't that many things came out, but that was one of them.
Wow.
And
So they were still putting out merch with the makeup band. That's kind of surprising.
That's why those go for such a high price on eBay, and
yeah,
especially in that condition, they're very high demand, real easy to sell.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that that old.
Yeah,
I thought it was a reunion era.
I think I should have known that.
Well, speaking of Revenge, this is another 92 shirt, at least 92, 93. But check out this one, because this is one that you'll sometimes see, but never in this good a condition. And I love the colors on this. I think it's very colorful for Revenge. Revenge was a very dark imagery period, but this is like really sweet.
And they made a limited set of Converse tennis shoes with that graphic.
Oh, whoa! Okay.
But I think they made 5 of them. I think they made one for each of the band members, and then I think one of somebody else in the management got one. I think there was 5 of them, and I think one actually showed up on eBay once.
You know what?
A pair.
This is really cool. I'm just now noticing. So at the bottom, you have the hands from Smashes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With the background and the logo of Revenge, and a Chikara symbol. So this is like, I don't know, it's just giving multiple eras. That's really cool. You got Smashes, maybe a little bit of Eric Carr left over there with the Chikara, and of course your new album Revenge. But this is a shirt that it's one that you never ever see. This is a size large, so if you're looks to be pretty new, pretty unworn. So if you're a Kiss t-shirt freak, you're in luck, because we have a lot. I'll go ahead and just show one more, because this is one that we thought that was really cool looking. And this one is from a little bit later, but still 90s. This is a 95 shirt.
It's a Canadian too, and there's something else odd about it.
Okay, I'm ready to hear this.
You remember.
Yes! Okay, yeah, absolutely. So we looked at the tag, because we're trying to figure out the sizes and everything. And we have large, we have extra large, but this one size. It says on the tag, one size. So I guess they're just
like, maybe it's supposed to be a dress or something.
I don't know, but like this would definitely swallow both of us.
Yeah, it's a double X.
So this one,
It's not a triple X. I mean, that's big.
So this is for your big Kiss fan.
We haven't measured out the measurements on the website.
No, but this is a shirt. I mean, this is really cool. I didn't realize it was this big or just one size, but this would make somebody happy if they have trouble finding. I know sometimes it can be hard to find shirts like this, especially cool Kiss shirts like this. But yeah, this is the Marvel comic, right? Is this what this is?
Yeah.
They got the Marvel comic, some panels, some imagery. Love that. So nice 70s throwback on a 95 shirt. This shirt was made the same year I was. So we're both 30 years old. How about that? All right. Couple more items to show here before we wrap things up. Again, we just want to give you guys a cool glimpse of all the items. We have, you've seen some 70s stuff. We do have a few 80s things, some 90s. I wanted to show this right here just because it's hard to find this set still in the box like this. The box is really nice, but I can think back to when I was young. Dad bought this and had put it all together, super glued everything. He put some glitter on the drums, and then even made like a little logo backdrop. And he was real proud of it. And so this would sit in the living room as like a focal piece. And I have some pictures somewhere of it. But we would always sneak and push the button because the lights, it comes with a full stage. And so you press the button and it'll like flash the lights. It's a really well done product. And so as kids, we would sneak in there, push the button, and Dad would always, get away from that. You're going to run the batteries down. Don't run. So he put it in his room where we couldn't get it. And so we had to like sneak in there when he was at work, and if he wanted to push the button. But this is, really nice figures. These are the Alive figures. You can find them individually in boxes, but this one was a full set with a full stage. So this is a really cool item, and it's hard to find now. But Now this is, would you call this a Spencer's item? You would find these in Spencer stores or Nirvana's.
If they sold them, it wasn't produced by Spencer's, but they might have sold them. But it's it's just McFarlane. I remember. Yeah, I would buy them directly from McFarlane, the distributor there.
We had a Spencer store about half hour away, and that's where we would go to find like all of our Kiss stuff. I remember when I found the Eric Carr figure, and I destroyed that thing. I got my first Kiss beanie from there. But I think that's where Dad bought that. I know that lamp we have from like '01 with the black lamp with the orange flame and all that. That was one that he got too, and we have that as well. So, this is just a sliver, guys. Just a small example of things that we have. I better show this. We pulled this out on purpose. It'd be a shame if I didn't show you guys this. Oh. What's this look like to you guys? A smashed Paul Stanley guitar with, yes, a live autograph right there. So what's the story on this? Obviously, we said it was about around Farewell.
It's from the Farewell. It's a long story. I had actually sold it. Well, this is the second time I'm selling it.
Right.
I had sold it to some collector, a big collector, about 8 or 10 years ago, maybe 12. It was a while ago. I'd originally gotten that it was somebody who worked for the band. They had, during Farewell, they had collected many Smash guitars. That was the only signed one. Necks, guitars, a lot of guitar picks, costume pieces, like a lot of there's some Paul Pants, there's Ace's top.
Oh,
from Farewell. No boots, and there's a full Peter Criss outfit too. And that was one of the items. It all came. It's all legit. It all came from this one guy who worked for the band, and I'd sold that, and then recently I bought that and most of the costume pieces back, and I sold most of the costume pieces, but I had hung on to that, and now it's here for Alex to sell.
You said you sold most of those costume pieces. Does that mean you still have some of those costume pieces?
No.
No. Okay.
What did I mean? Well, I didn't buy all of them back from the guy.
Oh, okay.
He kept a couple of them. I bought most of them back from him, is what I meant to say.
Gotcha.
But if he decides to sell, he's still got a few good costume pieces that might go back into circulation.
Ooh.
You just, even like the post 70s costumes they just don't circulate anymore. They're just too hard to find.
Yeah. So if you guys are Paul Stanley fans, or you're looking for a real Kiss relic, you'll find this on the KISSmuseum website.
Yeah, and that's the caliber type of stuff we have. Stage used items all the way down to trading cards,
Yeah, we got it all.
And everything in between.
Everything in between, guys. So with that being said, let's go ahead and announce the date for the relaunch. So Peter and I have been going back and forth trying to nail down the date for when we feel like we should relaunch the KISSmuseum. Now, we're filming this on July 4th. So this is Happy Independence Day. Happy birthday, America. So we are looking for 1 week from today. So it's Friday the 4th. We're looking at Friday the 11th. July 11th is when you can expect KISSmuseum to launch. Now, I was thinking about this. We nailed down the date, but we didn't nail down the time. Do you think it should be midnight? Or do you think it should be like 5 p.m. when everybody's off work and home and settled? Because that we didn't decide.
Good question. Right. We haven't decided that. We will, and we'll let you know. But there's a lot of different ways we could do it.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways to approach it.
Yeah, we haven't thrown that around, but it's I just kind of think of it. you were on the other end, what would you
Yeah.
like? How would you like it to happen? Would you want us to like stay up till midnight, and that's we're on the Eastern time zone. Of course, not everybody is, so you got to consider that.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll do it the right way. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say let's do 6 p.m. July 11th. That way everybody 6 p.m. Eastern. That way everybody can get home off work and maybe get some dinner in you, and you can sit there and refresh the page. Get that wallet ready and get your chance at some really cool KISS stuff. I know Peter and I, we're going to make sure that we have some of the really cool stuff on there for you guys. We want to make sure that all KISS collectors have a chance at this. So yeah, let's not do a midnight showing. I don't want anybody staying up till midnight on a work night. We'll make it to where you guys can start your weekend off the right way and check out KISS Museum. So expect there to be a rollout next week. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. You're going to want to stay tuned. Patreon folks especially, stay tuned. We have something coming for you guys. But this is an exciting time, Peter. I mean, this is absolutely amazing.
It is. And, we bought up a bunch of collections, but, we still have another one. We have another one lined up that we haven't bought. And then there's some more that are almost ready to go. We're going to land those pretty soon. So it's going to be like a nonstop conveyor belt of KISS merchandise, just like the way it always was.
Oh, yeah. Just like Paul Stanley said, we are just getting started. And we are so glad to have everybody here. Thank you so much. I wanted to do something for you. I wanted you to walk away with something here. So let's go ahead and let's give Peter a gift here. I know I haven't opened this, so this could look like shit, but I'm going to give this to you. You can obviously see what it is. Here, I'll let you.
Oh, holy shit, look at that.
I'll let you do that.
Oh my god, yeah. All right.
And
well, thanks, Alex.
Yes,
That's
of course.
cool.
I had to get one for myself as well. So you and I both have a couple of KISS Museum T-shirts.
All right. I never had a KISS Museum shirt, but now I do.
Neither did I. Neither have I. So now we do.
Thanks so much.
We also have a return KISS Museum T-shirt you guys can buy on our TeePublic store. But I wanted to just have a little bit of extra fun because, again, this is an exciting time. KISS Museum has meant a lot to me. It means a lot to you guys. I know it means a lot to Peter as well. So we want to make this as fun as possible. And what we're going to do is for the first, I don't know, maybe 20 orders, we're going to give out these Return of KISS stickers. This one's stuck to something else. So let me go ahead and just pop this open here. But yeah, so the Return of KISS. Everybody can think back to, I mean, I wasn't around, but we all know Dynasty, right? When Dynasty was rolling around, they were doing the Return of KISS, even though KISS really didn't go away. KISS Museum is returning, even though KISS Museum really didn't go away. But we are going to be inserting these little promo stickers for you guys for the first maybe 20 orders or so, just to say thank you for trusting us, just to say thank you for shopping at the KISS Museum. We are selling smaller versions of these on our TeePublic store, but these are nice, about 3.5, almost 4 inches stickers. So I do want you to have one, and I'm going to have one. I'm going to put maybe 2 or 3 back, and then the rest of them are going to you guys. Assuming you're there on July 11th at 6 p.m. when this all happens. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to leave you guys. Thank you so much for coming here.
Man.
Yeah, it's been amazing driving around picking up stuff. I can't wait to do it all over again.
Yeah,
this is going to be our new thing.
I would like to. Yeah, maybe by the end of the summer, I would like to drive my van out here, and even though I'm not working, I just love the experience of. We had so much fun driving, meeting everybody we bought them from were just the coolest guys. But
they really were.
Well, let's not get into that now. But it's like time to wrap up. But it was just so much fun, and the fans. I never met, of all the hundreds of KISS collections I bought up, I never met a seller that I wasn't really cool, wasn't somebody that I would want to be friends with. They were just so much fun. Nothing. Nobody's ever weird or rude or anything. And
good. Yeah, KISS fans are great.
It's always fun. I do miss the process.
You have the best job in the world, and now so do I. And I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you, KISS fans, for watching the show, for supporting Kiss Army things. If you want to become a Patreon subscriber, definitely check out the link in the description. We're going to be doing a couple special things in relation to Kiss Museum for the Patreon folks, so definitely stay tuned for that. Peter and I are going to wrap up because, yes, it is 4th of July. We've been working so hard this week, we deserve to have some fun, relax, and so we're going to go and watch some fireworks. I hope you guys are staying safe. Be sure to check out the KISSmuseum.com Friday, July 11th at 6 p.m. We're going to be doing the relaunch there. Expect some great things. So definitely share the word. Yeah, share the word on your guys' social media. Tell all your Kiss friends. Well, maybe not, because then they're going to have a chance of getting the stuff too. So if you want to be sneaky, you may just keep it to yourself. But we're going to be talking all about it. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. This is episode 146 of the Kiss Army Things podcast. My name is Xander.
I'm Peter.
And this is Kiss Army Things. You guys stay safe. Peace out. Rock on.